The World Economic Forum's Jobs 2025 report makes it super clear. The skills that matter most for the future aren't just technical, they're human, systemic, and adaptive. Analytical thinking, complex problem solving, resilience, leadership, and systems analysis are at the top of the list. So that means the role of a change manager is evolving. We're interpreters of the entire organizational ecosystem. Today, I'll show you how to stop managing change like it's a straight line and to start reading it like the living, breathing system it is. So the thing is, change doesn't live in your project plan. It lives in the system. And if you don't understand the system, you're missing the entire map. Now, what is the system? The system is everything that shapes how work actually gets done, from the formal structures like processes, policies, and tools, and the informal ones like habits, incentives, and relationships, and unwritten rules such as invisible flows of influence, trust, and resistance that run between them. It's not just a diagram on a slide. It's a living network of people, decisions, and constraints that produce the results that you see every day. If you can't see the network, you can't predict how it will react to change, which means you're really managing change in the dark. Traditional change management models often assume a simple linear path. Step 1, announce the change. Step 2, train the people. Step 3, go live. Step 4, celebrate successes. The problem? That's not how living systems work. Organizations are networks of people, processes, incentives, tools, culture, and unspoken rules. They're political, they're dynamic, they adapt, sometimes in ways that undo all your hard work. I've seen it over and over again. You roll out a shiny new workflow, but the old approval bottlenecks are still in place. You launch a new collaboration tool, but leaders still reward solo heroics instead of shared wins. You push for innovation, but the unspoken rule is don't take risks unless you want trouble. It's exactly what I wrote about in my popular post on change management and systems thinking. The biggest misconception in change management is thinking that change is just about people. Yes, people matter, but most of the time, it's the environment that resists change. If you don't change the environment, the system, you're asking people to swim upstream, and eventually, most people get tired and let the current take them back to their old way of working. So here's the shift we need to make. Stop asking, how do I get people to change? And start asking, what's stopping them? Systems thinking helps you find those hidden barriers. It's about understanding that every change sits inside a web of cause and effect, and those effects aren't always obvious. Let's take the example of a performance bonus scheme. You might design it to reward faster delivery, but in the system, that incentive could also lead to cutting corners, which increases rework, which slows delivery down. That's a reinforcing loop you didn't plan for. Or let's take a new digital reporting tool. It's meant to save time, but because it reveals more data errors, it creates extra review work, leading managers to delay approvals, negating the original benefit. In complex systems, unintended consequences aren't accidents, they're inevitable. The job of future-ready change managers is to spot those early and design with them in mind. The Future of Jobs 2025 report backs this up. Look at the skills it highlights: analytical thinking, so spotting patterns, identifying leverage points; complex problem solving, you're working with independencies and trade-offs. Then you've got resilience and flexibility. So you're staying steady when the plan has to change. Leadership and influence, your presence is the anchor during uncertainty. And then finally, systems analysis and evaluation. So you're understanding the bigger picture before acting. The report warns that jobs and the skills they require will keep shifting faster than ever. AI, automation, climate change, geopolitical shifts, they all send ripple effects through our organizations. For change managers, this means we can't rely on a fixed toolkit. We have to be adaptive learners, capable of sensing change in the system, not just delivering change into it. If you made it this far, you'll probably be interested in my Confident Changemaker program, where I personally coach you to develop the mindset and the presence to build the skills mentioned here so that you can thrive in your organization as a change maker. So how do you read systems, you ask? Here are 3 starting points. Number 1, casual loop diagrams. What you want to do is map out how one change triggers another. Use arrows to show the cause and effect. Mark whether those effects reinforce or balance each other. For example, faster onboarding equals quicker productivity, which means more workload for mentors, which means slower onboarding for the next wave. Next, you've got stock and flow maps. So picture a bathtub. The water level is your stock, and the taps and the drains are your flow. So in organizations, your stock might be employee capability, trust levels, or available budget. Your flows are what adds or takes away from that. Example, if skills are draining faster than training can fill them, you have a sustainability problem. Finally, stakeholder system maps. Don't just look at the org chart, please don't. Map informal influence, trust, and resistance. You might find that a mid-level manager with no formal authority is actually the cultural gatekeeper that everyone listens to. Convince them, and you'll see the whole system shift. Before we dive into further tools, let's step back and talk about why this shift to systems thinking isn't just a nice to have, it's a direct response to what's happening in the world of work right now. The Future of Jobs 2025 report is essentially a snapshot of what skills are rising, which are declining, and what forces are reshaping organizations. And buried inside that data is a massive wake-up call for how we manage change in organizations. So let's look at the skills employers say will be important or most important for 2025. Here's the top tier: analytical thinking, creative thinking, complex problem solving, resilience, flexibility, agility, systems analysis and evaluation, leadership, and social influence. Do you notice something? None of those are purely technical. They're not about mastering a specific tool or process. They're about how you think, adapt, and work inside complexity. That's important because it mirrors exactly what we see in organizational change. That ability to analyze, sense patterns, and adapt in real time is now a core leadership skill, and change managers sit right at the center of all of that. On the other hand, the report shows a decline in demand for rote procedural skills, anything that can be automated or standardized. That includes basic data entry, simple administration, and repetitive compliance tasks. Now, why does this matter in change management? Well, because if the nature of work itself is becoming more adaptive and creative, change processes can't be rigid and prescriptive. They need to leave space for experimentation, feedback, and co-creation. So think of it this way: you've got new technologies that require new skills, which demand new training models, which shift team structures, which alter career paths. One shift triggers 10 more. So what does this mean for us? It means the old model of announce, train, implement is dangerously out of sync with the world we operate in. Instead of delivering a fixed change, we now have to navigate an evolving system. We need to map how changes interact, technology upgrades, policy shifts, cultural dynamics, so we're not blindsided by unintended consequences. This has always been the case, but now more than ever, because of the pace of change we're seeing the issue compounded. We have to design for adaptability, building in feedback loops, not just post-implementation reviews and surface level check-in. We also must manage energy, not just tasks, because in high uncertainty environments, resilience and focus are just as critical as skill. We also need to work relationally, building trust networks that can carry change through turbulence, even when formal authority can't. This is where the system thinking mindset comes in. It's not just theory, it's a practical response to the complexity that the report has shown us. So the future of jobs data is showing us the workplace is becoming more interconnected, more human-driven, and more adaptive. If our change strategies stay linear and siloed, they will fail. Let me share a quick story. I worked with a multinational organization that had just completed a global merger, bringing together teams, systems, and processes from two very different companies. The goal was to unify operations under a single ERP platform, one source of truth for finance, procurement, HR, and supply chain across more than 20 countries. The project team did everything by the book: vendor-led training in multiple languages, careful data migration, integration with local tools, and a strong communications push about the one global system. But 6 months in, adoption was patchy. When we mapped the system, the hidden blockers shone and emerged. Regional finance leaders were still producing their own country-specific reports in legacy systems because those formats matched local regulations and leadership preferences. Approval chains were still split. Some transactions went through the ERP, others through long-standing email chains or even paper forms. The unwritten rule in several regions was just do whatever keeps the month end smooth, even if it means bypassing the new processes. In other words, the environment, the habits, incentives, and the invisible priorities was still optimized for the pre-merger way of working. The solution wasn't another round of ERP training or a more polished comms plan. It was aligning the environment, changing reporting expectations so global and regional leaders only accepted ERP-generated reports, reconfiguring the ERP to meet critical local compliance needs, not all, and celebrating teams who fully embrace the new workflows, even if the learning curve slowed them down at first. Once the environment was shifted, adoption spread across the region, and the new ERP became the shared backbone of the merged organization instead of just another system people worked around. So here's your challenge. Pick one change you're working on right now. Map it as a system. Make sure you include the formal processes, the tools and tech, the incentives and the measures, and the unwritten rules. Then ask, where does the system make the old way easier, and where can I remove friction so the new way wins by default? If you've made it this far, you'll probably be interested in my Confident Changemaker program, where I personally coach you to develop the mindset and the presence to build the skills mentioned here so that you can thrive in your organization as a change maker. Click the link below to check that out. And if this video has resonated with you, hit like, subscribe, and share it with fellow change makers, because the future of change really isn't about managing projects. It's about reading and understanding systems and making sure that we are showing up to shine within them. Take care.